Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickinson from Dubbo Regional Council.
I have Dubbo Regional Council Mayor Matthew Dickinson on the line with me to speak with me this morning. How are you going this morning, Matthew?
I've been better, Nathan. I'm struggling a little bit to sit down at the moment. I'm not sure exactly why that might be. Maybe my bottom's a little bit sore.
Might it have something to do with the Tour de Oroc?
It might well have something to do with that, Nathan. Sitting on a little 10 centimetre seat for 740 kilometres, pedalling through the region, out to Burke, down to Cobar, Lightning Ridge, etc. Yeah, it does tend to do a little bit of damage to the rear end, and that's certainly how I'm feeling this morning.
And so how did it go?
It was a fantastic event. A lot of great things happened as we rode around. The riders were very excited to be part of it. Good fundraising outcomes. And we've changed the concept a little bit this year, Nathan. In previous years, we've tried to do very big days. I'm talking about 220 kilometres in a day, back-to-back 220 kilometre days. And it's pretty taxing on the body doing those sort of distances. And what we found from previous events was that we covered big distances. We saw lots of towns, but we didn't see them for long. And a bit of the feedback we had from our riders was they'd prefer to see some of these places a bit more. There's some exciting things to see. So this year we cut the distances back. Typically the days were anywhere from, say, 100 to 160 kilometres in a day. And that meant that riders were getting in around a bit after lunchtime to each location. And then they could be tourists. So they saw the Burke Discovery Centre, for example. They went down to the Jandra paddle steamer. We went out to Lightning Ridge underground mine and spent time underground there. Went to the Brewarrina fish traps. So we got a chance to go and look at these various things in the region. And I think from a tourism perspective, from the idea of exposing some of these various places around the region, from that perspective, a huge success. Fundraising will be great as well. I think after this event, the total fundraising that will have contributed to Macquarie Homestay will be well over $800,000.
Wow, that's fantastic. Are you happy with that?
Very happy with that. That's fantastic. And when we hear stories from people in the region who are using Macquarie Homestay, and we certainly heard that on this particular trip, when we hear those stories, we know that Macquarie Homestay is saving lives. People have told us stories that they wouldn't have been able to afford to go to Sydney, wouldn't be able to get to Sydney. They just would have basically accepted their diagnosis, and that was the end of it. Now they've got somewhere to stay in Dubbo, and we've got some of those treatments in Dubbo that they need. People from the region are able to get to Dubbo, have those treatments, and be able to stay at Macquarie Homestay. So it certainly is making a difference to people's lives, which obviously is very satisfying for all those riders involved.
And did it all go according to plan?
Yeah, pretty well spot on. There were no accidents. We've had accidents in previous years. There were no accidents. No one fell off their bikes. We had a huge guest stars. We normally have some guest riders come along. The two this year have been our biggest guest riders ever. 2 Olympic gold medalists, Brad McGee and Sarah Carrigan, both joined us for the ride, for different parts of the ride. And that's a huge honour for the riders to be riding beside gold medalists. And big thank you to those two as well. It's a big chunk out of their time, and they're very busy people, to be able to come along and ride with us. And they both were fascinated by what they saw and were just thought that the whole ride was fantastic, but just seeing some of those regions, some of those areas, they thought that was fantastic as well.
Lovely. All right. Now let's talk about the Dubbo Private Hospital. It's just celebrated a major milestone.
It has indeed. 30 years they've celebrated. Now, that's a really good thing for Dubbo. We talked about health facilities a moment ago, but with the Dubbo Private Hospital, it means that you've got the ability to go along and actually see someone to do some surgery that's not usually emergency surgery. You're talking about optional surgery, but things that you might need to have done that you in the past would have gone to Sydney for. People are now able to come to Dubbo and have been for the last 30 years. So that's pretty exciting as well. But in fact, I actually didn't realise it had only been 30 years, because people still talk about the private hospital as being relatively new in Dubbo, but before you know it, it's 30 years old. So again, that's one of those things that's a great asset that we've got here in Dubbo, and I think one of those things that people don't realise, the great facilities that we've got here. When you start to look at the numbers, though, for the hospital, it was quite fascinating. So on the Saturday night where the celebration was held, they did talk about some of those numbers and talked about some of the sort of people that have been through there. 120,000 operations have been performed at that particular centre there, at the Dubbo Private Hospital there. So that's 120,000 people that would have either had to wait for the public hospital or to travel to Sydney to have some of those operations done. So having that in Dubbo is obviously a very important thing in terms of the ability for us to service that. They've got 130 direct employees. They spend about $3 million a year on local suppliers and contractors. So it is a significant facility for Dubbo and something that's very important for Dubbo.
Okay, and finally this morning, waste facilities going cashless.
This is one of those things that I don't think it will affect many people. Only about 1.5% of people currently use cash when they come and use any of our waste facilities. Some of those people that are affected might be impacted and might have to find an alternative way to buy things, and hopefully they've got some sort of electronic means. But we found there was a bit of vandalism and some break-ins occurring at our waste facilities with people assuming there was cash held on those premises. So if we take away any cash, if we take away the ability for people to pay with cash, then that means that effectively you've got no cash there and less likely to have break-ins. Plus there's the extra management involved with cash. You've got to count the till at the beginning of the day, count the till at the end of the day. You've got staff handling cash. It seems much easier to deal with just electronic payments. That can be credit card or FPOS facilities. So people will do that, and they've been doing that now. As I said, only 1.5% have been using cash. But from the 1st of July, all of our waste facilities, so the Willandra Waste and Recycling Centre and all of our transfer stations, all the only way you'll be able to pay at any of those will be non-cash payment methods.
Matthew, I thank you for your time.
Always my pleasure, Nathan. Thanks for chatting.
Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickinson from Dubbo Regional Council.